will open up the January 19th, 2010 Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I want to welcome everybody here that's viewing from the audience as well as here in with us. At this point in time, I'd ask everybody to stand for the presentation of colors by the Scout Troop from Cold Springs United Methodist Church. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard posted colors.
We stand. Let's have the invocation by Commissioner Cabarrus. This time, if the young men from Cold Springs United Methodist Church can come up, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please. And afterwards, if you'll go over to your left, my right, after you announce who you are, Commissioner Minot will have a pen for you.
My name is Justin. I am 11 years old, and I live at 6716 Heather Lane.
What school do you go to, Justin?
Mount Pleasant.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Brian, and I live at 1534 Klein School Road, and I go to Mount Pleasant Elementary School.
Thank you, Brian.
I am Tim Pernisi. I go to Mount Pleasant High School, and I live in Concord.
Thank you, Tim. We have before us the minutes on page 4. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as they've been presented? So approved, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Under the approval of the agenda, there is an inclusion of G3, which is a request for funds to accelerate construction of Hickory Ridge Middle School, which is G3. With that inclusion, is there a motion to approve the agenda as it is?
Second motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Next is we have no cards for informal public comments. Am I? Okay. Missing. Okay. We have no old business under the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Now on new business, G1 is the Parks Department approval of the master plan for Rob Wallace Park, and that is found on page 197 of our agenda. And at this point in time, I call on Mrs. Londa Strong for the presentation, and along with Mr. Billy Royal. Mr. Royal, if you'll come up as well.
Tonight we have the conceptual master plan for the new Rob Wallace Park in Midland, and Billy Royal with W.K. Dixon is going to give you an overview of that.
I am Billy Royal, W.K. Dixon. Like Londa said, we're going to give you a quick rundown of the master plan we've been developing since August. As you know, there's a 190-acre parcel in Midland that was purchased from Rob Wallace. It's a very nice piece of land, a lot of natural features there we're going to stick to. We started off our planning with a steering committee, started off with a certain amount of ideas and ended up kind of somewhere else, and that's what the whole planning process is about. We started off anticipating active recreation, like most of the parks you have in Cabarrus County, solicited surveys. Mainly online, we developed a website for the park, sent the surveys out, got as much feedback as we could, handed out paperwork at the Cabarrus County Fair, Midland Magic. Like I said, tried to get as much public input as we could to develop this park. We started a conceptual master plan that included baseball fields, soccer fields, and other passive or active activities, and refined it as we went along. As the public comments came in, it was leaning more and more towards a passive park setting, which for those of you that don't know, passive being more walking, hiking, open space, active being just opposite with baseball fields, soccer fields, and whatnot. This is, you can see up here, this is kind of where we started. Like I said, August 12th, started with our first steering commission meeting, comprised of members of the community, Midland, some Cabarrus County Park, and other shareholders there. We had a site visit on August 19th for everybody to get familiar with the site so we could talk about limitations and restrictions that we would have there. And that played a very important role in developing how the park laid out. For those of you that have been to the park or know anything about it, or to the site of the park, it was an old quarry site. So, you know, when you talk about developing baseball fields, it didn't really work out for this site because the rock is so close to the surface. The rock is basically on the surface in many places. Next, we had our first public meeting on September 9th. We had a meeting at Bethel Church, Methodist Church, and had a pretty good turnout. We haven't had any opposition, I should say, from very beginning to right now, to this point. We've had nobody speak out against the park. Everybody's been extremely happy about the park. We continued on with our preliminary master plan after we developed the conceptual plan, started moving more towards trails and how the park was actually going to lay out. That was September 11th through 19th. We had our input session at the Cabarrus County Fair. We displayed a large board, just asked everybody that walked by to give us their input, see what they would like, go to the website, fill out handouts, and just verbal communication. We took that, further refined, had a second public meeting, kind of showed some more of our ideas at the second public meeting on the 21st, and we had another steering committee meeting on the 30th, September 30th. We further refined the plan, ended up in our final master planning stage. This is all outlined in the master plan booklet. It starts at the very beginning, kind of details through where we started and everything we've done up to this point. We presented a draft master plan to the public at Midland Magic. The public was very receptive about it. The draft master plan is pretty much what you'll see as the final master plan that we have now. A few changes here and there. Following that was our presentation to the park committee. Park committee, some of the members were already on the steering committee, so they knew what was going on, filled everybody in. Kept going. January 5th, 2 weeks ago, we had our, I guess your work session and presented this there. And here we are again on the 19th. Here is the overall master plan. It's also online, I believe, that we have a website set up for it. There's numerous links to it. There's a link on the Midland website. There's a link on Cabarrus County website. You can get to it any amount of ways. This is what we're looking at here. You can see, basically, we just have one main road going through the site, and we kind of, we'll talk about phasing later on, but we phase the park to where we could get the most bang for a buck up front and actually get users to the park and provide them with what they've asked for. You'll see trails, numerous trails, the quarry there, boardwalk, and there's been mention of the quarry and how deep it is, and we will address that, and we'll protect it, protect people from the quarry. That's definitely one of our main concerns. So we plan on putting a boardwalk in along the quarry to allow people access to the water, fishing, and recreation, but still protect them from the steep slopes on the edge of it. You'll see a couple other things. This is, like I said, this is the overall master plan. This is all 3 phases that we have planned at this point. This shows a little bit of everything without putting too much on there to clutter it up. This is a copy of the survey results, and this goes back to what I was talking about. This is where we asked for public information, public input. Sorry, I couldn't turn it the other way where you don't have to turn your head to read it, but it's hard enough to scrunch on there. You'll see hiking trails are up at the top, followed by mountain bike trails, playgrounds, nature trail, and then the pier and boardwalk, all being passive activities. You'll notice down towards the bottom, you'll see your volleyball and your basketball and your football and active activities like I discussed. This is a photo taken last fall of the pond out there, so you can see what an excellent opportunity we had to start with here. This is going to be the main focal point of the park. Another shot of the park, just an active, another passive opportunity here. This is a stand, under a stand of large trees at the top of the hill. Of course, everything like this we're going to do our best to avoid and not disturb. We worked with a local architecture firm, Barbara Walker, and she developed these sketches you'll see here. This is our idea that we had, kind of something out over the pond, amphitheater. Not your grand amphitheater like you think about, maybe something just a tinsel structure, something simple for summertime activities. Some more sketches. We've also talked about it, incorporating the nature aspect of the park and the educational aspect, inform the public and get people out there to enjoy what's around. Bathhouse, restroom rendering here. You'll see we kind of stick with the same theme throughout. We kind of keep like that rustic rock park setting. Cabins have been one of the requested items. This is something we'll deal with maybe later down the road when funding allows. Probably, I think this is in phase 2 right now. Could be in phase 1. I'm not positive there. This is a rendering we did of the entry sign. Once again, just kind of showing the theme, the feel that we'd like to give to the park. We have numerous opportunities. There's a nice creek running through the site. We got numerous opportunities to do some pedestrian bridges and crossings and incorporate all that into our trail system as well. This is actually not the park, but this is very similar to what it'll look like when we pass a trail up the backside of a berm on the side of the lake there. Another photo of different trails. I mean, we talked about hiking and biking trails as well. Once again, this just kind of shows the theme, and we think it's important to show maps and kiosks around the site so people know what is there, since it is a pretty large site. The playgrounds, you'll see this one's covered, and that was one of the main things we heard from people. Please cover the playgrounds so they can be used year-round, especially in the summer. It gets really hot. Going back to the safety aspect of the quarry site, we talked about cantilevering out some structures or something similar to what you see here. Like I said, to give people access, but still provide that safety. Picnic shelter example here, kind of tucked back in the woods. And this was another one of our requests that came through pretty strong. Splash pad, as opposed to a typical swimming pool. It's a little bit safer here and something we think people can enjoy. This is in phase 3, I believe. And that's all I have. I'll take any questions you have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Royal at this time? Thank you, Mr. Royal. I appreciate it. It seems like it's going to be a very nice park, and we all look forward to one day getting to go out there and hike and bike and enjoy the amenities.
It will be very nice.
Thank you. We have is on.
Do you need a motion to approve that master plan? I'll make
Do we
the
have a
motion.
motion?
You got it.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Next matter we have is G2, is a resolution advocating for the reinstatement of agreements between General Motors Corporation and Ben Minot Chevrolet Cadillac dealership. This is something I talked about to everyone at our last meeting, and a resolution in here, and didn't know if anybody had a chance to look at it, and if you have any questions let me know. I do know that we're in a position right now, we're trying to save as many jobs as we can. We all want to reduce our unemployment, and I think this is one of the opportunities that we can do it, especially for a company such as the Ben Minot dealership. They've done a tremendous job over the years, and I think it's something that we need to step up and try and do everything we can to help.
I
Mr.
make a
Chairman,
motion, the resolution be approved,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
I will
Before
not,
we take that motion, do we have
I'd like to be recused
motion to
from-
recuse yourself?
Yes, other than to tell you that there are 53 employees at the Chevrolet store.
Chevrolet, okay. Well, that's the second of her motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next matter is G3, which is the addition that we had, or the inclusion at the end of our agenda. This comes up because we had our vice chair, chair, and manager with the Cabarrus County School System last week. And at that meeting, it was a request from the chair and vice chair that we consider, the Board of Commissioners consider moving forward with using contingency funds in the amount of $350,000 to get Hickory Ridge Middle School to open up earlier than planned. Right now, it's slated to open up 2 weeks after school starts, so that the kids would go to another school for 2 weeks and then be moved. If we were to use these monies through contingency, the school could open up, or the school would be available 2 weeks prior to the start of school. So the school would actually open up on August 25th, 2010. As presented to us on Thursday, or requested on Thursday, it would not increase the cost of the building. It would not increase the cost of what is planned. The monies would be used out of contingency, so that it's already been budgeted, at least in contingency, but it would be there. Today I got an email from Mr. Whitkey asking that $350,000 be used from the sales tax credit funds, which I don't think is the best way to handle this if we are going to consider it. I think better is to use the contingency, and since I think the school is out of the ground for the most part, so the idea that there may be some need for contingency, but I don't think, they were saying there's not, if it was a need, it will not be a great need. So that using the contingency, they should not be in any trouble. They can't foresee the future, but they don't see any problems with that. So that if it's something that this board would consider, then I think the only prudent way to consider it is to use the contingency and not the sales tax credit funds. So that is what was presented. If I misstated or if I didn't get everything, Commissioner Poole, if you will help me with anything I may have forgotten.
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. It's important to be in the school August the 11th so that they can get moved in prior to the first day of school, which is August the 25th. Otherwise, C.C. Griffin Middle School will open and operate as two different schools. They'll have to have different bus routes. They'll have to, or they'll have to change the bus routes. They'll have to change, make sure the classes are set up so that they're in with a full class, so that 2 weeks later they can move the whole class and everything. And for that amount of time, I think it would be prudent for us, if possible, to get them in the school on time. It states in the letter that they were hopeful that we would have good weather and that they would be able to make up some of those dates. It's been kind of cold, and the weather hasn't been as receptive lately. So I believe they also said that $350,000 was not a firm amount.
Correct.
That was their guesstimate at this time. They would need to go to the contractor and make sure what the contractor would have to do in order to speed up. You'd have to put on an additional crew in order so that they could get everything finished on time. And I agree with you on the comment about the contingency funds, because they didn't think that they would have a problem with the contingency funds at this point in time, and they do have a fair amount in there, so I would also agree that, and concur that it should come out of the contingency funds. I was under the impression that this was, at this time, was more of letting us know that this is what they wanted to do, and that way, come August or July, if they came back and were, for some reason, $50,000 short, then we wouldn't be surprised at that time. But I didn't have the impression that they really needed and thought that they were going to need the whole amount of money. They were just trying to put us on notice, was the impression that I had from the meeting. So I would make a motion that we do tell them that they need to go ahead and accelerate the construction, with the understanding that the funds would come out of the contingency. And if there are any issues, they would need to, this is just January, they would need to keep in contact on a monthly basis, if not as soon as possible, with our finance department if there are any concerns that they have as they're proceeding. But
Second motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, just that was that point I was going to bring up, because it can be easily confused. We're supporting the fact of accelerating construction. Wanted us to give it additional $350,000.
It's not an addition.
Okay, so it's out.
Correct.
Okay.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And on a side note or related item, the 2 elementary schools, they said, are on track, and the 2nd middle school is going slower than expected, but we knew that because they've come to us a couple of times with issues concerning drainage, and a spring, I think, was found underneath it, so, or near the construction site, so that we already know about that. That's all I have for new business. If I've missed anything, let me know. Otherwise, under H1, do we have a motion to appoint Mr. Peterman, Mr. Randy Peterman, to the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee for a 1-year term ending January 31st, 2011, and to remove Mrs. Ramsey from the roster?
so move.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. As it relates to the Fireman's Relief Fund under H2, do we have a motion to appoint Morgan, Kelly Whitley, Joseph Chandler, Richard Monty, Joe Udi, Earl Wise, Bobby Knight as Fireman's Relief Trustees for their respective fire departments for a 2-year term ending January 31st, 2012?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now, do we have a motion to reappoint John Walker, Tommy Louder, Jerry Queen, Del Udi, Kathy Elf, Keith Clark, Dennis Hall Jr. as Fireman's Relief Fund trustees for their respective departments
So move, Mr. Chairman.
for a 2-year term ending January 31st, 2012? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, H3. Do we have a motion to appoint Megan Baumgardner to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council as the district attorney designee to complete an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2010?
So move.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. For our appointments, we have those listed, and site is not good enough to read.
Mr. Chair,
But I know that as it relates, that's what I was going to get to first.
Page 296.
Under the grants, Commissioner Poole has indicated that she's unable to make that meeting since they meet very infrequently. However, it's during the day when she's in school.
That's the Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee.
There it is.
and Mr. Chairman, likewise, I have a difficult time. It's a very important committee, which is the Transportation Advisory Committee. It always, Wednesday afternoons is the worst day of the time of the week for me to meet on any meeting that meets a regular basis, and I've talked to Commissioner Poole about perhaps switching that, and I would take that position on the Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee, since they meet very infrequently, and she would take my position on the Transportation Advisory Committee.
On the Transportation Advisory Committee, is that one that you'll be able to attend, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's at 5:30 in the evening.
Afternoons,
That's
on
5:30,
the fourth
that's not a
Wednesday of every
problem.
month, so.
Is everybody else okay with their appointments? Do we have a motion to make those changes and
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Take care of on that motion, Mrs. Honeycutt? I think it does. Usually, at the very end of the appointments, I would ask for people in the audience, seriously consider getting involved in regards to boards and committees under our website of www.cabarruscounty.us. There is boards and committees. Use the website or feel uncomfortable about it, to 704-920-2109. There you can contact the office for a list, or it is very important. There's some good boards on here that we certainly need some help. We have a plethora of people in certain boards, but not in all of them, and we'd like to have them in all, but we certainly appreciate your consideration. With that, do we have any comments from board members? See no more comments. Do we have a motion to go into closed session as authorized by CGS 143-318.11 to discuss, let me see here, property acquisition?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries. After this, we will be adjourning, and I hope everyone has a good couple of weeks and be safe. Thank you.